When I sat down to watch the 2023 Barbie movie, dressed in my pink shirt, pink shorts, and light wash jeans, I did not know I was about to watch one of my favorite movies of all time. I also did not know that this film was going to be about deconstruction. If you grew up Christian, you've probably heard the term deconstruction because it scares pastors or because you know someone who's done it. I myself have done it, and now I'm like agnostic or spiritual or something. I would describe deconstruction as the process of examining and reevaluating your beliefs. You could also call it questioning, unlearning, deprogramming, unbrainwashing, heresy. Though the term is often used casually, it also has roots in academia. But to deconstruct is quite literally to pull something apart. It's like dissecting yourself while you're still alive. It's like climbing the ladder into the attic for the first time in a while and taking stock of what's up there. And once you open that first box,
suddenly, the entire slope gives way. There's no outrunning the monster as tons of snow come crashing down the hill at over 150 miles per hour.
There's this concept in Mormon and ex-Mormon communities known as the shelf. When there's a tenet of faith or an idea that doesn't make sense, you put it on the shelf. You keep doing that over and over, and eventually there's so much stuff on that shelf that it breaks.
The whole thing fractured heavily, and it was a large cracking sound. And I mean, I pretty much knew immediately that the whole thing broke up. Suddenly the whole thing was moving underneath.
I've broken so many damn shelves in my life. My faith shelf broke when I got drunk for the first time. My sexuality shelf broke when I kissed a boy. My leftism shelf broke when my communist roommate called me a lib. But now that I think about it, there was one that came first. Do you want to guess what it was? It's actually a pretty common one for people. I'll give you a hint. For me, it involved a sudden obsession with Vessel by 21 Pilots.
Sometimes quiet is violent. I find it hard to hide it. My pride is no longer inside.
That's right. It's Existential Dread.
Do you guys ever think about dying?
Stereotypical Barbie exists in a perfect world. She's got her perfect house, her perfect morning routine, her perfect friends.
Hurry up, the president's here.
I am, you're welcome.
Her perfect boyfriend, her perfect life. The song in the background is uplifting and goofy and playful. Everything's going exactly according to plan. Until she accidentally admits at a disco dance party that she's been thinking about death. I love this moment for a number of reasons. On a surface level, a record scratch and freeze is a wonderfully campy choice. But on a deeper level, it accurately dramatizes the feeling of stepping out of bounds in regards to a social norm. The people around her have no frame of reference for this comment, nor do they have any concept of how to respond to a sentence like that. They do not think of dying. They don't even think about thinking about dying. And as they are not yet able to entertain this concept, their reaction is cold and immediate.
I don't know why I just said that.
Also, on an absurd level, they're dolls. They cannot die. They have no concept of death because they exist in a perpetual loop of play, living in virtually the same day over and over again. There is no death because there is no concept of life. They simply exist like a virus in a state between living and unliving. But you can see a sense of creeping dread on their faces. They know a social rule has been broken, but since they've never yet stepped out of bounds, they don't know what's out there. They can't comprehend it, so they just stand there frozen until the issue is resolved. To address the tension in the room, stereotypical Barbie amends her comment to become palatable and pretends she didn't even think it in the first place.
I'm just dying to dance.
The experience of pretending to still fit into a social structure despite your keen awareness of the newfound ways you don't relate to it is unfortunately deeply relatable. It reminds me of how it felt to be experiencing doubts when growing up in the church. Doubting felt like a disease, something that you caught but would eventually pass. Most people acknowledge that doubting was okay, in fact a healthy thing, since it would strengthen your convictions and connect you further to your faith. But there was always a hint of, but eventually you'll be back. Maybe even a hint of a threat. You'll be back, right? The belief system validated anyone who stayed within the flock, who saw the world in a relatively similar way, and it othered those whose beliefs were too radical. Growing up, I'd often hear the phrase, "You can't be a cherry picker Christian. You have to take the whole thing or none at all." But I realize now that's not actually how beliefs work. You actually totally can mix and match. And saying you can't is actually a mechanism of institutional control. Take all of our rules at face value without questioning, or you can see yourself out. Even if you stay, you're framed as being less knowledgeable, less experienced. So the more you stay, the less you trust yourself, and the more you uncritically trust others. Back when the doubts started, I spent a lot of time processing this creeping existential dread. Up until then, my answer to what happens when we die is we go to heaven or hell, probably. But now, all of a sudden, I was like, wait, are those even real? What if my purpose in life is not to spread the good news of Jesus Christ? What if at the end of it, there's just no afterlife? It's just the end. What if I don't have a purpose? Barbie may not be on the verge of forsaking the Christ, but she is reckoning with mortality for the first time. And it scares her. You can see how on her face after it happens, how wrong it feels to be othered for the first time. You can see her decide to never bring it up again if she can avoid it. But unfortunately, as we know, it's not always that simple. The next day, everything feels different for Barbie. She struggles to get out of bed. Her feet are no longer pointed, they're flat. She doesn't float to the ground, she just falls down. Things aren't perfect anymore. I love how this movie uses tropes of pretend play as a narrative device to illustrate disillusionment. We, as an audience, get to laugh while the strange rules of Barbie Land are explained to us, like the shower with no water, the solid pool, the instant clothing changes. I think it beautifully illustrates how it feels to look back on your pre-deconstruction life. You see the things you did without questioning and you're like, ooh, that was normal for me? That's so strange. We know that Barbie floating from the roof to the ground is a reference to a child just picking her up and putting her down elsewhere, but Barbie doesn't know that. She's never questioned why she floats, because that was the way it always worked, until it didn't. At the beach, she confesses to her friends that her feet are flat now, and they're all instantaneously repulsed by this. The concept is so impossible to them, their minds can't digest it. So they expel it, fight it, reject it, fear it. And honestly, stereotypical Barbie agrees. It is weird. She doesn't like it, but it is happening to her and she wants it to go away. So the other Barbies recommend she go see someone who specializes in helping Barbies get back to normal. Weird Barbie lives in a house on a hill, excluded from society. Her outsider status grants her insight. She's able to observe things from an altered perspective. She's very obviously queer-coded, which I think is integral to understanding why she has the perspective that she does. Also, it's worth noting that realizing you're queer is a type of deconstruction. Queer people often have powerful insights on love, relationships, gender, politics, the state, because we and those who've gone before us have had to think real hard about them, as we typically don't relate to them in the way we were taught to growing up. Weird Barbie explains that these irrepressible thoughts of death are happening because a portal has been opened between Barbie Land and the real world. Whatever kid owns this Barbie is thinking a lot about death lately, and it's bleeding over. So Barbie has to go to the real world and fix that kid. Find that kid. Excuse me. In a reference to The Matrix, Weird Barbie holds up a pink high heel in one hand and a Birkenstock in the other.
So, what'll it be then? You can go back to your regular life and forget any of this ever happened? Or you can know the truth about the universe.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Stereotypical Barbie immediately chooses the first one. No hesitation.
The first one, the high heel.
No. We'll do a redo.
She doesn't want the truth. She wants the problem to go away.
You're supposed to want to know.
I don't.
Babe, listen. You have to want to know, okay?
Weird Barbie's like, actually I lied. I wanted you to feel a sense of control in opting in, but you actually kind of have to do this, or else you'll end up looking like me.
If you do not find her and fix things, what's ugly will become uglier, and then you look like me.
I am astounded by the depth of insight in this joke. When given the choice between healing the core issue or returning to normalcy, she chooses normalcy because that's why she's here in the first place. She doesn't want to go on a grand adventure and end up inevitably changed, but it turns out that's actually not possible. I've found that before I start actively deconstructing something in my life, there's usually a few months or years of me trying to rationalize my current normal. Maybe my faith or my sexuality didn't make sense to me yet, but maybe it'll just work itself out one day. One of my friends who helped me edit the script added a note that said, "This to me is fundamental about how it feels to be a visible trans person. It feels very easy at first to go back to the socially acceptable role you were performing before, but when it means actively and constantly choosing to deny yourself who you really aspire to be, it more often than not becomes entirely untenable." Woo! She fucking spat truth with that one, shit! I think ignoring the looming call to begin deconstructing works in a similar way. Once you realize you need to start, the more you delay it, the more damage it does to you. You ever see a 70-year-old who hasn't updated their beliefs since 1980? Or a closeted politician? I think that shit kind of fucks you up, even if it feels safer. That moment where Barbie finds out that she doesn't actually have a choice, where she actually has to go on the journey whether she wants to or not, that part really got me. Because deconstruction is really important, but it's also, hard. It sucks. It's destabilizing. And it involves uprooting your sense of self. I genuinely don't blame her for not wanting to go. But I might judge her for not going. So, Barbie sets off on her journey. She's driving away in her car, singing Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls, and I looked it up. This is the perfect song for this moment. Gerwig does it again. She soon discovers Ken has stowed away in her car. He wants to come too, and she's like, okay, whatever. So they travel to the real world together by car, boat, rocket ship, bike, camper van, snowmobile, and roller skates. While we're on the subject, did you know that all of these are practical effects?
These old silent movie film techniques, it looked like a Carl Zeman movie.
We looked at theatrical methods of making things work. So the foreground goes very fast, and it goes slightly slower.
You might have a boat that's moving while the water's moving, and that's literally like our crew members pulling a rope like this and putting like little bits of cellophane on the water to make it look like it's twinkling like water.
Anyways, they arrive at Venice Beach. Remember those set photos that went viral in June 2022? Yeah, that's this scene. This scene is emotionally evocative in such a condensed way. Over the course of a 2-minute scene, Barbie experiences guys ogling her, teens laughing at her, frat boys telling her to smile,
smile, Blondie.
construction workers hitting on her and catcalling her, and a stranger slapping her on the butt. Naturally, Barbie punches him in the fucking face. The scene condenses into a few minutes what typically happens slowly over a series of isolated incidents that build up to one big realization. In this case, Barbie's deconstructing her pre-existing concepts of what it means to be a woman.
You'll get to see all the good work we've done to fix the world. I'll bet every woman will say thank you and give you a really big hug.
She's starting to question what she was told. maybe the Barbies didn't actually fix all the problems for women in the real world. Her shelf goes from virtually empty to collapsing in a few minutes. We see in real time as Barbie develops a new level of consciousness.
I feel kind of ill at ease. Like, I don't know the word for it, but I'm conscious, but it's myself that I'm conscious of.
This line is tricky for me because on one hand I'm like, yes, Barbie, develop self-consciousness. But it's also like the why is everyone staring at me, am I being weird kind of self-consciousness, which sucks. But also, the thing that's instigating the self-consciousness is rejection and harassment from strangers. It's dark, but it's also pivotal. I recently watched an extremely good video essay by Alexander Avila called TikTok Gave Me Autism, The Politics of Self-Diagnosis, where he summarizes Foucault's ideas about how society forms and creates the self.
The favorite problematic bald man of unemployed sodomites, Michel Foucault, would argue that there really isn't a way to separate your selfhood from power. In Foucault's work, the self or the subject is an effect of power. Power sets the type of discourses dominant in a given society, and those discourses give cultural meaning to what it means to be a subject. This is the process of subjectivation, or subjectification, or subjection. It doesn't matter.
Highly recommend that. I'm not gonna summarize that very well here. I'm just gonna launch into it. In this moment of objectification, Barbie becomes a subject. The way she dresses, the way her body looks, the way she acts are perceived through a lens that's unfamiliar to her. And it makes her hyper aware of her subjectivity. She sees people see her as a weirdo, an object, as weak, and it justifiably freaks her out. She didn't really have to be this aware before, because it's not really necessary in a utopian doll society. When I began deconstructing my faith, I became really obsessed with subjectivity. I saw so many people, religious and non-religious, appealing to this idea of objective reality. Like the way they saw the world was the same as everyone else, and if you don't see it their way, you're stupid or wrong. Like, oh, this movie is objectively good. But that's not how it works. The image being projected onto the screen is the same, but what we project onto the movie, how we feel about it, even what we think happened in the movie? Oh, that's all subjective, baby. I started to feel frustrated when I heard Christians say, God told me that I wanted to scream, you do not know the mind of God. Stop displacing your own agency. The awareness of subjective reality, or at least an equivalent gut feeling, is a crucial precursor to accepting the realities of oppression and abuse. That applies to racism, sexism, ableism. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. We saw this a lot in 2020. People saying, I don't know anyone who got sick. This whole thing must be a hoax. Or, I don't see cops targeting people of color, so it must not be happening. Be serious. Little tangent. I think a major reason big cities and college towns tend to be more politically progressive than less populated areas is due to awareness of subjectivity. In a city, it's really hard to avoid other people's perspectives. You see dozens of people who are different from you every single fucking day. And most importantly, you've probably made friends with and heard stories from people whose experience is different from yourself. But when you live in a small town, like I did for part of growing up, it's really easy to only meet people like you. People with the same upbringing, socioeconomic background, race, religious beliefs, political leanings. And when you're confronted by different beliefs and worldviews, it can be pretty easy to write them off. Crazy, delusional, sinful. When you create an outgroup, you can keep some pretty fragile beliefs remarkably intact. But once you meet enough people with life experiences that counteract your preconceived notions, that shelf starts looking mighty heavy. So back to Barbie in Venice. Right after she punches the guy, we smash cut to her getting her mugshot taken at the police station. And the police are making inappropriate comments about her body too.
I love
me a leotard. He looks even better in more clothes.
Because you can imagine more.
The Barbie movie said, "The police are not our friends." The difference between Barbie and Ken's poses are striking. Barbie looks shell-shocked, yet Ken is having the time of his damn life. While all this stuff was happening, Ken was, in fact, not noticing all the same things Barbie was. He's surprised to find that the world thinks he's awesome, actually. For wearing the same clothes and doing the same things as Barbie, he's celebrated, lauded, and most crucially, not harassed. Ken says, "I'm not getting any of that. I feel what only can be described as admired, but not ogled, and there's no undertone of violence."
Mine very much has an undertone of violence.
Let's talk about Ken. In the scene with Weird Barbie that references The Matrix, stereotypical Barbie essentially takes the red pill. She needs to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Much has been said about how The Matrix is a trans allegory, and how estrogen HRT in the 90s was taken via literal red pills. For more on that, I highly recommend Sophie from Mars and Sarah Zedig's wonderful video about the Matrix sequels for more on that. About the Matrix sequels. But in the past few years, we've seen how ubiquitous this metaphor has become. The blue pill, red pill image is the notoriously vague metaphor that has been adopted by conservatives, specifically alt-right weirdos, to refer to radicalization, to more extremist, more, fascist viewpoints. So it's fascinating that the Barbie movie actually presents two accounts of what getting red-pilled can mean. For Barbie, the red pill represents a growing awareness of herself, of humanity, of inequality. But for Ken, the red pill is radicalization into patriarchy. Ken somehow finds his way to Century City, which, for context, is a 2.5-hour walk from Venice Beach. How did he get there? Did he take the metro? He sees big fur coats, muscly gym bros, businessmen in suits, police on horses. There's a montage of masculine signifiers, from Mount Rushmore to Bill Clinton to presidents on the dollar bills, stocks, golfing, accompanied by an adrenaline-pumping remix of that song from 2001: A Space Odyssey that I can't pronounce very well because it's German. So sprach Zarathustra.
Also sprach Zarathustra.
Ken's story in this movie shows that the writers, Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, have a strong understanding and empathy for the experiences that prime men for getting red-pilled. He's being taught what's normal by the messages he receives from the culture around him. Ryan Gosling's performance perfectly encapsulates the innocence of a young boy who's just excited about the world and all that it promises him. The way he stands slack-jawed and hunching on the escalator, the way he cheers when he sees the montage. We also literally see him playing, which is a major theme in the film, of course, pretending to be the businessmen in suits. If we consider the Venice Beach and Century City scenes a metaphor for puberty and early adolescence, we see that men and women are presented with very different truths and ideals. Growing up, women are presented with all the options of what they can be, but also the grim realities of sexual harassment, objectification, beauty standards, inequality, the list goes on. Whereas men are presented with countless stories where they're in charge, where they rule the world, and where they get the girl in the end. Men then try and reproduce these models, but sometimes it doesn't work for them and they get angry. Why can't I succeed in this? Why isn't this making me happy? Why am I not getting the girl? This is like the dark Link version of deconstruction. This is what happens when you go looking for answers to fix a crack in your worldview, but instead of reflecting inward about the untrue or unhelpful beliefs you hold, you turn the blame externally and look for increasingly radical answers to explain why you're correct. The women are the problem, not me. They just don't know their place. It's not deconstruction, it's reinforcement. This movie does an incredible job of contrasting the experiences of Barbie and Ken. Barbie's experiencing the beauty and pain of the universe, but Ken's out here slipping deeper into delusion. There was a disconnect between the two before, but the rift is only growing. I think it's really articulate, since that's kind of how it works in real life too. When young men discover that women aren't interested in them, they often feel cheated. Feeling vulnerable and insufficient, men will often cling to stereotypical signifiers of manhood, like muscles and guns and cops and beer. They embrace being dangerous, unfeeling brick walls to better fit their perceived masculine ideals. And, while all of this is happening, women are learning that they maybe need to be a little afraid of men, that men aren't safe, that you should share your phone's location with a friend when you go on a date, just in case. Barbie immediately recognizes her subjectivity upon entering the real world, but Ken super doesn't. When men can't empathize with the experience of being a woman in the world, they end up saying some dumb shit like, feminism isn't necessary because the sexes are already equal. Bro, self-awareness is hot and you lack that. So, after learning about patriarchy, Ken decides he doesn't need Barbie anymore. He goes back to Barbie Land to share all the cool new things he's learned. I have 2 favorite scenes. Okay, I actually have 20 favorite scenes, but these are the 2 that affected me the most. They're very similar in tone, and they basically function as setup and payoff. So here's the first one. Barbie sits on a park bench with her eyes closed. She just got out of the police station, and Ken's off doing whatever, so she takes a moment to visualize. Who is the kid she's supposed to find? And suddenly, she sees flashes of memories of a mother and daughter growing apart. In this moment of silence, she finally has a chance to sit and reflect upon her own painful and dehumanizing experiences. And in the visions, or memories, she witnesses human strife. The disconnection, the disillusionment, the betrayal. She hasn't had the chance to become acquainted with all these messy, difficult emotions before. Tears start rolling down her cheeks. And then she says,
That felt achy, but good.
And then she just looks around. There's a family having a picnic, a couple playing with their dog. There's a mother pushing her daughter's bike while she runs up to a friend. We see Barbie see all of this. A shot pans up from a child on the playground to a tree, and we follow Barbie's gaze as she glances up. We see the way it branches, and somehow we feel the history of its growth and all it survived to be here. A somber motif floats through the score. It's What Was I Made For, the Billie Eilish song from later in the movie. And then Barbie turns and looks over, and there's an older woman sitting on the bench a little ways away. They truly see each other. Barbie says, "You're so beautiful." And the woman, without hesitation, says, "I know it." If someone asked me to describe my spirituality now, I could show them this scene. This scene makes me cry because through the power of Greta Gerwig's directing and Margot Robbie's performance, we see someone experiencing what is for the very first time. For the first time, through less clouded eyes, she witnesses the isness of the known universe, feeling for the first time in a deeply subjective and almost indescribable way what it means to be alive. She sees, really sees, reality in all its complexity and chaos and beauty and ordinariness, and it moves her. Because that's what happens when we finally see what is instead of what we think is or what we think should be. I had planned to use a clip later in this video from a podcast appearance of non-binary comedian, poet, and author Alok, and I was listening to the whole episode to remember which bit I wanted to use, and then I heard this part. In response to the question, what does it mean to be enough? They said,
"It means to be valued for what is, not what should be. It means to be present on this earth, to laugh and hear your own laughter, to cry and feel your own tears, to smile and feel the own musculature of your own face. It means a profound and sacred intimacy and poetry and interconnectivity of no longer feeling like you have to formulate your body into some pre-existent template or algorithm or equation, but just being valued for the irrevocable fact of your beautiful existence."
Barbie doesn't immediately notice the woman sitting on the bench, even though she's the person closest to her. I think this woman can represent an awareness of the universe, or existence, or God. She's sitting right there, and she's happy to see you. But it's only after Barbie leaves her rigid world and experiences pain and pleasure that she learns how to see the woman sitting right there beside her. Deconstruction is so important to me because it's the process through which I began to see for the first time what is. It's taught me to listen to reality and at least try to stop attempting to graft my preconceptions onto it. Growing up, my mom used to say that God is everywhere. He's in the trees. If you're looking for God, look for him there. I used to think God was like an old bearded white man in the sky looking down disapprovingly, yet paradoxically lovingly. How can he fit in the tree? He's not here with us, he's far away. I don't use the word God much anymore, most of the time, because that label often makes it harder for me to tap into the thing I think it's trying to describe. But now, I think what a lot of people call God is maybe closer to something like reality or isness or being. After removing barrier after barrier after barrier, after questioning so many distortions that barred me from witnessing other perspectives, I think I've finally started to see God in the tree. Okay, back to the fun stuff. Barbie arrives at the high school that she saw in the vision, and Ken's there too. She walks directly up to a group of jaded young girls and presents herself as what she believes herself to be: a savior, a role model, their favorite toy.
Who are you?
But instead, the girls are like,
"Come on, Sasha. Give it to her. Destroy Barbie. You've been making women feel bad about themselves since you were invented. You represent everything wrong with our culture. Sexualized capitalism, unrealistic physical ideals."
No. And here's the thing. Basically everything Sasha says is fucking accurate, if not slightly hyperbolic.
You set the feminist movement back 50 years. You destroy girls' innate sense of worth, and you are killing the planet with your glorification of rampant consumerism. You fascist.
Barbie is kind of fashy. There's a lot of terrible stuff the brand has done. They basically provide a safe, commodified version of women's liberation, one that fails to meaningfully challenge the status quo, and instead reads more like girl boss feminism. All this new information, of course, does not match Barbie's self-concept, so it makes her cry and run away.
I have to. Will you excuse me?
You know how in 2020, basically every white person you know is having an existential crisis? Because they didn't realize how culpable and unaware they were with the entrenched systems of racism and white supremacy? Myself included? Yeah, this scene reminds me of that.
She thinks I'm a fascist?
It represents something important on Barbie's deconstruction journey. Many of her experiences in the real world thus far have been abusive and indefensible, but something she hasn't experienced yet is being confronted with the unintended negative side effects she's had on the world. No deconstruction journey is complete without a healthy dose of looking back at your past selves and feeling regret. Reckoning with your participation in something you no longer support, it's heavy stuff. I used to be Christian for like 20 years of my life. You know what they've done? You know, like historically and presently, like the Crusades, colonialism, evangelism, manifest destiny, conversion therapy, genocide. I could go on. So like, what do you do with all this new and upsetting information? You're like, oh God, was that me? Did I do that? Was I doing that? And then you start spiraling and soul searching, trying to reassure yourself you're a good person, all the while knowing that your desire to feel reassured is a part of the problem. And I mean, I didn't do the Crusades, but you know what I probably did do? Evangelize. I went on missions trips. I made people feel othered when they didn't fit into the narrow box of reality I was working with. I'm probably being a bit hard on myself, but I do feel bad about it. Becoming a healthy human adult, I think, requires us to develop the skill of self-reflection. To be able to listen when people tell us we messed up and really look inward to discover, do I agree? What am I responsible for? Are there things in there that actually aren't my fault? What wrongdoing can I in good conscience claim? And how can I change my ways going forward? Sasha reading Barbie to filth ends up being an important step in Barbie's deconstruction, because you can't begin to right the wrongs of your actions or the systems you're a part of if you aren't aware they exist.
Johnny, my baby, tell me all the details for tomorrow.
So, then Mattel finds out Barbie broke out of Barbie Land.
No.
Barbie has become liberated. And once they discover this, they make it their job for the rest of the movie to reverse this liberation. Think about something you've changed your mind on. How did the other people around you deal with this? Were they supportive? Or did they not recognize this new part of you? Did they reject it? Did they imply you had strayed from the path? Did they try and change your mind to go back to the way things were? The Mattel board in this movie reminds me of all the institutions that keep calling even after you stop taking their calls. The church friends who say you'll come around, that you're just having some doubts, that they'll pray for you. The family members who repeatedly dead name and misgender after someone in their family comes out. The strangers in comment sections telling people to stop showing their body or owning their sexuality. They either don't have the emotional infrastructure to deal with the difference of worldview, or they do, and they just don't want to use it. All they know is you broke one of their deeply held tenets of reality, and they want you to stop. Instead of deconstructing, they reinforce, they double down. They are uncomfortable with you running around in the world being free. Anyways, here's another quote from Alok from that podcast, speaking here on why nonconformity is so threatening to people.
People have been taught to fear the very things that have the potential to set them free. This has nothing to do with trans and non-binary people. It's never been about us. It's not about what we look like, it's about what they feel like. And they don't know how to feel love like we can give. And that's why marginalized communities are persecuted. It's not because of what we look like, what we're saying, our identities, our pronouns, our nomenclatures, our language, our scholarship. It's because of the presence of love that people feel like they can't actually inherit on this earth.
After meeting Sasha goes so poorly, Barbie decides maybe Mattel can fix her.
Of course it was you guys that brought me here, because it definitely wasn't that Sasha girl.
She arrives at the executive boardroom at Mattel, populated exclusively with men in suits, and they politely ask her to get back in the box so everyone can move on with their day.
If you're agreeable to it, we would love it if you could just get into that giant box.
Going into the scene, Barbie believes that the people asking her to get back in the box might be on her side. After all, she didn't want to deconstruct. Maybe it's as simple as just doing that. Stopping. Playing the role they expect from her.
Okay, I'll get in the box then.
All right, yes.
Before she puts her hands in the box and seals it up, seals the deal, she asks if she could meet the woman in charge at Mattel, believing it must be led by a powerful woman like in Barbie Land. Like, how is the Barbie brand not run by a woman? But the CEO gets defensive, explaining how their company is literally made of women, how they've had like 2 women CEOs, how they all love women. Then he calls her Jezebel, which doesn't help. This is another shelf-breaking moment for Barbie. She thought these people were on her side, looking out for her well-being, but she realizes that's not the case. The box that moments before seemed like salvation starts to look like a trap. Barbie stares at it contemplatively and says,
I haven't been in a box in ages.
She steps in.
Oh my gosh, I remember this smell.
For a moment, the familiarity of her old self is comforting, nostalgic. But it's not her anymore. She panics and almost by instincts pulls her hands out of the restraints.
Before I get in the box,
It would be a flat out lie if I didn't say I fantasize every so often about going back to the way things were before. Before I started deconstructing, before it all got complicated. Maybe it would be simpler. But then I realized, no, I don't want that anymore. And then Charlie XCX's Speed Drive comes on. So we're about midway through this video. We're gonna get back to deconstruction, but we gotta dedicate some time to talking about Greta Gerwig.
Watch me dance, dance the night away.
Film directors are often known for a specific element of their craft. Impressive visuals, complex story structures, pulling great performances from actors, creating a good culture on set. But for a movie to really work, it requires more than that. It requires something closer to the core, something you can feel while you're watching it. Does this director have a clear perspective? And Greta Gerwig unquestionably does.
Watch me.
Lady Bird and Little Women, the previous two films she's directed, are some of my favorite movies on planet Earth. Gerwig gets reality in a way I've never seen elsewhere. The way she imbues the most specific details into her stories, the way she can explore harrowing experiences in such a way that shows a deep love for her characters, for the things they find important, for their own inner lives. She doesn't only recall relatable details from her life, she remembers the texture of them, the way they tasted, the way they smelled, and most importantly, how they felt.
Is this a joke?
No. Her movies tend to be uplifting in a kind of condensed dose of humanity kind of way. But it's not through empty optimism. It's through specificity. She makes you feel the briskness of the winter air as the March sisters walk arm in arm. She makes you taste the communion wafers as Lady Bird and Julie lie on their backs with their feet on the sacristy walls. Sacristy? Is that right? I hope that's how you say that. Women in Gerwig's movies feel so real. But they're so far from archetypes. Their idiosyncrasies are highlighted and underlined not to point and laugh at, but to appreciate. Gerwig's films typically center around women in pivotal moments in their life where they don't yet know who they are. In an essay about deconstruction, it feels apt to take a moment to appreciate how Gerwig repeatedly throughout her career has humanized the experience of changing your mind, of falling down, of growing into the person you're becoming. It's really special to have a living, working director who not only is a master of the craft, but who gets it on such a deep level.
I love you. Thank you.
Okay, slight pivot, but still related. There has been some criticism levied against Gerwig for taking the Barbie gig in the first place. Essentially, for using her masterful skill set to create one of the greatest brand refreshes of all time for a 1950s-ass toy company. And for making a movie that is ostensibly feminist on the face of it, but one that makes no attempt to address the connection between gender and class, and how patriarchy is inextricably linked to capitalism. Broy Deschanel has a great video called Feeling Cynical About Barbie that I highly recommend for more on this, especially if you felt that type of way about this movie. Reportedly, Gerwig wants to be a big studio director. Her agent recently explained in an article, Greta and I have been very consciously constructing a career. Her ambition is not to be the biggest woman director, but a big studio director. She's currently slated to direct some adaptations of the Chronicles of Narnia for Netflix. Obviously, I would love it if our fave director could just remain unproblematic forever and just create low-budget bangers outside of the realm of commerce. But honestly, the history and evolution of film as an art form cannot be meaningfully extracted from the history of film as commerce. Even indie film is a business. The Mattel execs get off pretty easy in this movie. They're set up as the antagonists in the boardroom scene we just talked about, but past that point, They're just kind of bumbling and well-meaning.
Let's have a company retreat and just tickle each other.
But can we for a second appreciate what this movie, which Mattel paid for, was able to get away with? The story draws attention to the fact that Mattel's real-life CEO is a man. Same with the majority of their execs. It accurately portrays them as more invested in the status quo than progress, and at the end, it's pointed out that they only care about telling real women's stories if it makes them money.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, that's going to make money.
Oh, Ordinary Barbie, I love it.
I think Gerwig did something deeply, deeply cool here. She used one of the biggest and most recognizable symbols in the world that she got permission to use, this privately owned and trademark universal symbol, and she got to play with the concept. She used a toy as a jumping off point to explore what it means to become a woman in one of the most existential and thematically rich texts I've ever seen in a blockbuster. I'm honestly not sure why we're not giving her more flowers for this. She worked within the system, and she hit it out of the damn park. Can you think of how many other directors have tried the same and failed miserably? I think as long as Gerwig is able to successfully advocate for her vision under the pressures of a risk-averse, hyper-capitalist industry, she has the potential to make some really exciting art. I hope this parasocial fawning doesn't, put her on too much of a pedestal. She's allowed to make bad art, and she probably will at some point. But so far I haven't seen any. Now, let's transition back to the world of the Barbie movie and deconstruction.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party.
So, as a refresher, we just left off. Barbie's in the boardroom at Mattel. She's starting to realize that they're maybe not her friends. So she removes her hands from the box, and then she makes some excuse about going to the bathroom to fix her hair, and then she bolts. She just fucking goes. So I'm bisexual, and when I heard Speed Drive by Charlie XCX come on as Margot Robbie begins to run in pink bell-bottoms and heeled boots, I transcended. I'm like a sleeper agent, and Speed Drive is my code word. Like, boom, now I gotta assassinate. Then Barbie runs outside and Gloria's like, get in! And then they speed away in a product placement car with Mattel in hot pursuit. While in the car, they realize the memories Barbie telepathically experienced weren't Sasha's. The irrepressible thoughts of death came from Gloria playing around with some new Barbie designs. She wants to design dolls, but she's currently stuck working the admin job at Mattel instead. In terms of deconstruction parallels, we can read this as a moment of camaraderie. It's two women connecting over a shared existential crisis. They see themselves in each other. And the way Gloria lights up when her concept of irrepressible thoughts of death Barbie is said aloud back to her tells us a lot about the power of bearing witness to the dark and confusing corners of one's psyche. Being able to connect with others who are also deconstructing is incredibly powerful. In order to feel safe to continue, you kind of need to feel like you're not totally crazy. Midway through college, as my faith started drastically changing shape, I started feeling distant from the people whose faith remained completely intact. Like, you're telling me you have no questions about this whole thing? No criticisms? I suddenly felt a lot more comfortable around people who had also started questioning. I could feel they were tapped into something real, like they too had peeked behind the curtain and also couldn't pretend it all just made sense. One of my best friends was going through some similar stuff at the time. I remember a point in time where her spiciest take was, I don't think sex outside of marriage is bad, actually. But just a few years later, I was learning from her about the horrors of neoliberal capitalism and the necessity of communism. It's honestly, and I mean this very seriously, been an honor to grow alongside her and lean on each other and build each other up as we discover what we actually believe. Deconstruction can feel extremely isolating, sometimes so isolating that it stops the questions dead in their tracks. But I know that there are people around your age who are asking similar questions. If you can connect with them and commiserate and process together, the journey gets a whole lot easier and a lot less lonely. Oh, I'm not wearing my glasses. Maybe I should wear my glasses. Does this complete the look? Wait, should I keep them on or off? Maybe symbolically, the fact that I wasn't wearing these in the second day of recording means that Barbie has taken her rose-colored glasses off. So, the Mattel execs are still in hot pursuit, so Barbie is like, hey, we should go to Barbie Land. But all is not what it used to be, because Ken has, redecorated. The dream house is now Ken's Mojo Doja Casa house. Everything's now like horse themed. And the former president is serving brewskis to the boys while they play shirtless volleyball.
Where are my hungry boys who want snacks?
Barbie is, understandably, distraught. Barbie tries to talk Ken out of it, but she's not getting through. He likes not being a sidekick anymore. And the other Barbies somehow can't receive and process what she's saying.
I like being a helpful decoration.
So, she collapses onto the AstroTurf and threatens to give up.
Not my life. No, thank you. Just, no.
To any former Christians, you know that first time you go back to church after you started having doubts? It doesn't look the same as you remembered it, right? I think what stereotypical Barbie is experiencing is something I'm gonna call the sudden realization of systems. Before she went to the real world, everything was perfect for her, and she considered it normal. Even though she was existing within systems, she wasn't required to be aware of them because they never posed her any threat. She only realizes the true impact of those systems once they are no longer benefiting her. Ken threatens to change the constitution of Barbie Land to keep the Kens in power in what I believe to be a not subtle but fully merited reference to the Supreme Court's decision to repeal Roe v. Wade. And Barbie's like, what? You can't do that. And Ken's like, literally and figuratively watch me. Being disempowered or hurt by systems is a shockingly effective way to realize they exist. Think about, for example, the police. Statistically, how many times are cis straight white people gonna have a bad experience with the cops versus queer people of color? Marginalized communities have known the unjust side of the status quo for decades, generations, and some of us are just catching up. This reminds me, again, of summer 2020, when a lot of people suddenly had to see the truths of racism and policing that they'd never seen before, starting with, oh fuck, racism is way worse than I thought. Then moving into, oh fuck, it's baked into the history and systems in our country, to, oh fuck, I can't single-handedly dismantle the prison industrial complex. It's the feeling of donating and reposting infographics and having conversations and going to protests and raising awareness, and it's still not enough to fix it. This is a major step in deconstructing. The realization that we exist within systems and the ways they influence our lives. Growing up, especially in North America, we observe and internalize a very individualist ideology, believing we are fully in control of our own lives and choices. It makes us see societal problems as the result of a few bad apples rather than a deep rot at the root. It's not just the pastor at your church that's to blame. It's also the 2,000-year history of Christianity and the structures that have been shaped by it. Your boss isn't necessarily exceptionally greedy. He's just doing what you're supposed to be successful under capitalism. Your neighbor who's a cop might be a nice guy. That's not the issue. He's a pawn of a corrupt and flawed institution that does far more harm than good. When a problem becomes so abstract that you can't point a finger at a single person, and you realize that solving it requires so much more than you alone can accomplish, it's fucking demoralizing. It's existentially stressful. It makes you feel small, powerless, and alone. So Barbie collapses onto the AstroTurf.
Okay.
Gloria tries to console her, but Barbie says, I'm just gonna sit here until one of the more leadership-oriented Barbies snaps out of it and does something about this whole mess.
Let's go, honey. Let's just...
Shortly after, Gloria and Sasha attempt to drive back to the real world, but on their way, they see agents of the Kentriarchy building a literal wall! A literal wall! They're building a wall to keep Barbie Land separate from the real world. When they notice Alan has also stowed away in their car, desperate to escape this new nightmare he's been subjected to, something shifts. Sasha's like, we have to go back. But Gloria's like, there's no point. Barbie gave up. But Sasha, with deeply Gen Z type of insight, says,
You have to try. Even if you can't make it perfect, you can make it better.
So they go back to Kenland and they find Stereotypical at Weird's house, along with celebrated author Barbie, who's still brainwashed. And Stereotypical is, understandably, still having a crisis. She feels unable to stop the horrors and unable to do anything worthwhile, and like she's not pretty enough.
I'm not good enough for anything.
Then America Ferrera gives the famous monologue, which I actually really like, about the inherent contradictions and impossible standards of existing as a woman. This manages to shake author Barbie out of her brainwashing.
I did write a book.
Stereotypical says,
By giving voice to the cognitive dissonance required to be a woman under the patriarchy, you robbed it of its power.
This line gets to the heart of another reason why deconstruction has been so important to me. The ideologies through which I used to see the world were hurting me, or at least not serving me. And they were also disconnecting me from the people around me. Deconstructing transfers the power from the institutions that benefit from our unawareness to us, the people who the systems disempowered, the people who these systems should ultimately benefit. At the beginning of this scene, Stereotypical believes she's not sufficiently beautiful or capable, but those judgments existed within her frame of reference. Gloria's speech expands her framing and helps her realize that this failure was not her. It was how she was conceiving of herself. In an interview shortly after the release of the film, Greta Gerwig discussed what she realized when she saw Ferrera perform the monologue on set. I suddenly thought that this tightrope she's explaining is something that is present for women in the way she's describing it, but it's also present for everybody. Everybody is afraid they're going to put a foot down wrong and it's all going to come crashing down. And in that moment of doing that monologue, she was giving people permission to step off that tightrope. I don't think I realized until then that's what that moment was for. I really like that image. Once you realize that you're not gonna die, that you'll get back on your feet, that you're safe and you're loved, and that it's not all gonna fall apart, then it becomes conceivable to start listening to yourself. So the Barbies hatch a plan. Phase 1, distract the Kens, grab the Barbies, and deprogram them. They're shelf breaking, and they're doing it in these cute pink jumpsuits. After they complete phase 1, it's on to phase 2. Before the Kens can vote to amend the Constitution, they need to sow distrust. So they use the power of romantic jealousy, and it absolutely works.
Who are you texting?
Huh?
Who are you texting?
Sorry, one sec. It's a beautiful song that you're playing.
The Kens fight, they dance, they have a whole ass dream ballet, and meanwhile, the Barbies are in court ratifying Barbie Land back into existence. It's extremely cathartic to watch the patriarchy fall in a movie. It's a wall-to-wall pink courtroom, Barbies all celebrating their reclaimed agency. Sasha puts her head on Gloria's shoulder and Gloria tears up and hugs her. This is a scene where the feminine is not coded as inferior, but as powerful, liberating. We just witnessed the Barbies go from existential crisis to organizing. Sure, it's a fantasy, but I believe we need those. In order to move towards a kinder, more just, more liberated world, we need to be able to imagine what that future can look like. Let's talk about Ken again. God, God, the fact this movie has a musical number. While the Barbies are in court, the Kens are having a civil war. As dawn breaks over the hills, Ken sings in his first line,
"Doesn't seem to matter what I do, I'm always number 2.
From the jump, it's clear that Ken is acting out from his insecurities. He's number 2 to Barbie, and he's number 2 to the other Kens who are better at stuff than he is. This is a deep formative wound for Ken. A large part of Ken's suffering is based in the fact that he has not deconstructed anything. He's only reinforced his existing beliefs and slipped deeper and deeper into patriarchal delusion. He lacks self-awareness, so he struggles to describe his experiences. All he knows is something feels wrong. As demonstrated in the lines, "I have feelings that I can't explain, driving me insane." Yeah, they kind of just say it, don't they?
I have feelings that I can't explain.
Ryan Ken floats to shore on a horseboat, and Simu Ken rides in on his boy's shoulders. They stare each other down. Ryan Ken sings, "Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blonde fragility?" The armies draw closer to one another, and we realize, whoa, Ken might literally die fragile. He's out here grieving forsaken love on the battlefield. If he doesn't figure out how to feel his feelings soon, the Kens will kill each other. But also they're like throwing inner tubes at each other. The Kens process their feelings the way the patriarchy taught them to. Violence. They spar on the beach trying to find some sort of resolution, but innocent horses are being hurt. And in a moment of maximum kenshin, they begin to sparkle. And suddenly, everyone's transported into a liminal pink and blue space. Their violence transforms from literal to metaphorical. For the first time, the Kens are actually expressing themselves. The groups enmesh, creating fantastical formations together. It's like diamond, what was this with my hands? Diamonds, circles, and the camera pushes in as the Kens peel off from a line. Wait, this reminds me of something. Where have I seen this before? So after they do that line thing at the end of it all, Ken emerges, smiling for the first time in a while. Ken laughs, a deep, joyful laugh. This is the behavior of a changed Ken. In the first chorus, the phrase, "I'm just Ken," is a lament, but in the final chorus, it's a proclamation. It's followed by the phrase, "and I'm enough."
I'm just Ken, and I'm enough.
Ken moves from identifying with his comparative lack to his inherent, irrevocable completeness. In the context of a single musical number, the Barbie movie shows what it looks like to move from toxic masculinity to healthy masculinity. The Kens learn how to embrace their softness and unite as teammates. Part of the reason Ryan Gosling stole everyone's heart in this role is because he's modeling healthy masculinity. To see a hot guy doing the hottest imaginable thing, working through his emotions? An important aspect of deconstruction is reconnecting to your emotions. What do you feel? There's a hell of a lot of worldviews that discourage connecting to that part of yourself. And when you're not used to feeling, it takes practice and time. Expressing yourself can take a lot of forms. It could be as simple as talking with a friend, or it may require singing and dancing. I'm not kidding. Literally, go sing and dance. There's so much tension in your body from holding on to whatever you've been holding on to for all of these years. And you need to move through that physically. Or like, write a song. It doesn't have to be good to be worthwhile. What matters is you're finding new connections to your emotions. Your body will thank you for listening. So there's this really lovely scene towards the end where Ken breaks down crying.
No! Don't look at me!
The society he created, where he's in charge, has just fallen, and now he's just Ken. When Barbie goes to console him, he admits he didn't really like running things anyways. He just liked the horses. Barbie apologizes for taking him for granted, but he misreads this as a romantic advance. And Barbie's like, oh, no, that's actually not what this is. I'm actually not really into you. So he spirals and he's like, I literally don't know who I am without you. So I'm kind of obsessed with Ken's arc in this movie because he doesn't get what he wants. Let me explain. One way of analyzing a character's arc in a movie is to examine what they want and what they need. What they want is the thing they are consciously striving towards, but their need is often related to a deep emotional wound and how it might be hurting them and or the people around them. There's something ill at ease in the character's relationship to their self, and the need centers around their ability to address it. Sometimes the want and need are aligned, but it's most interesting when they're not. So put simply, there's 4 possible combinations. 1, the character gets what they want and what they need, which is where they realize the thing that they needed all along, and also they succeed in their original conscious goal. 2, the character does not get what they want or what they need, where they're unable to soothe their personal issue and fail to reach their stated goal. But I think the most interesting ones are when a character 3 gets what they want but not what they need, or 4 gets what they need but not what they want. Want but not need often leaves the audience feeling hollow, tortured. The character thinks they fixed everything, but the audience feels the lack of resolution, the dread of their continued unconsciousness. Like, imagine if Barbie was able to go back to living her life not having gone on the journey to the real world, and she just swallowed the creeping existential dread. That would feel awful to watch. You might think that need but not want would be sad in some way, like when the team loses the big game, but I think this combination can actually be the most satisfying to watch. The character realizes what they were striving for wasn't going to fix them, but along the way, they actually found the medicine for healing their wound. What Ken wants is for Barbie to love him so he can feel whole. At the beginning, Ken only has a good day if Barbie looks at him.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken. Hi, Barbie.
His life's meaning is tied to another person. When he discovers a new way to find respect through patriarchy, he leans into that hard. But he eventually realizes he didn't even like patriarchy. And crucially, it didn't even solve the problem he hoped it would. He thought it would make him whole, to have women be subservient to him, to make him feel powerful, but at the end of the day, he just wanted love. But Barbie doesn't love him. So ultimately, Ken does not get what he wants. But what Ken needs is to individuate, to find a way to be that isn't solely in reference to someone else. Barbie says, Ken, you have to figure out who you are without me. You're not your girlfriend, you're not your house, you're not your mink, you're not even Beach. Maybe all the things you thought made you you aren't really you.
Maybe it's Barbie and it's Ken.
And Ken responds, Ken is me? Ken is me! Ken makes an incredibly important discovery. Someone else is not driving his life. He is. Okay, ready for this to get even more layered? The journey Ken goes on in this movie both applies to male gendered experiences and female gendered experiences. Okay, I'm gonna explain both, but first, let's talk about the male gendered experience. Men are taught from a young age that at some point, they will have a female partner. As they begin puberty, they're told they will start becoming attracted to women. If they play their cards right, they can date them. But they're also told that they can possess women. They learn that men are the leader of the household and women are the helpers. And they learn that this dynamic is not only normative, but it may even be handed down by God. This movie articulates that men are socialized such that their identities are incomplete without women. Whether it be to love or marry or manipulate or own, they learn they aren't a man unless there's a woman by their side. So once Ken deconstructs this idea, he no longer knows who he is. And then a community of loved ones surrounds and supports him as he begins to discover who Ken is without Barbie. And Ken's arc literally ends with him becoming Ken-nuff.
Thank you, Barbie.
I'm gonna cry. Now, the flip side. Ken as representative of female gendered experiences.
Yelling out, we ain't selling out. We got money, but we ain't lending out. We got bars, but we ain't belling out.
I kinda can't believe I'm actually gonna try and tackle this topic. This video is already so long. Okay. The politics of Barbie Land are dubious. It's a world where all the problems women face in the real world have been solved, which is amazing, unequivocally. Seeing a functioning matriarchy on screen is super cathartic, and the movie knows that. But as we know, Kens are not the focus of the world. They only exist in reference to Barbie. There's a clip I saw of Greta Gerwig talking about how Barbie Land is, in fact, not perfect because of how the Kens and Alan are treated.
Really creating a fantasy world of something that was, I mean, I don't want to say perfect because the Kens don't have enough power and Alan has no power, but
the society in which they live systematically flattens their experiences. We actually have the language to describe the differences between the Barbies by their professions or traits or outfits, but we are never given language to differentiate the Kens in this movie.
My Ken, I guess we can call him Ken Simu, is best described as, I think, a rival to Ryan.
Simu Ken's just a little better than Ryan Ken at basically everything. And that feeds a deep insecurity in Ryan Ken. Their existence is defined by their rivalry for the affection of the Barbies. If you're watching this video essay, you've probably heard of a little thing called the male gaze. I'm not gonna go into a full explanation, but I loved this video by Khadija and Bo discussing the internalization of the male gaze. And also this video by Broe Deschanel about the inversion of the gaze in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Just realized that's the second Broe Deschanel shout out in this video. Go see Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It's very gay. In the real world, men do get competitive for women's affection, but I don't think that's exclusively what's happening here. The movie calls to our attention multiple times that Kens in Barbie Land are kinda analogous to women in the real world. They're second-class citizens with less agency.
This is my dream house. It's Barbie's dream house. It's not Ken's dream house, right?
Right, as always.
The film uses play logic to pretend. What would it be like if we saw women with the agency we usually ascribe to men and vice versa? Since it's specific to this film and doesn't map cleanly onto the male gaze or the female gaze, I'm gonna call it the Barbie gaze. It's the way your reality and identity is constructed through the framework of the dominant social group. Because the Kens only conceive of themselves in reference to the Barbies, their identities are severely limited. Also, I was looking at the Score album and I saw a track called Warmth of Your Gaze. And I was like, wait, really? And I somehow forgot. There's literally a scene at the end where Ken says to Barbie, and I fucking kid you not, I only exist within the warmth of your gaze. Without it, I'm just another blonde guy who can't do flips. The Barbie movie talks about the gaze. And here's the big fucking brain blast. To a degree, this is also what the patriarchy does to men. Though it does give men immense institutional power, it also gives them an extremely narrow and restrictive concept of how to be in the world. I think Sigma male shit is dumb, but I empathize with and understand the desire for more labels, more lanes, more ways to be than just Thor. The distribution of power and the roles we are handed under patriarchy, that shit's broken for everyone. You remember earlier when I talked about subjectivity? Barbie, who up until that point had not experienced many problems in her life, develops subjectivity through experiencing the horrors of disempowerment. But Ken, who had been historically disempowered, develops subjectivity by recognizing his empowerment. Both characters are liberated and empowered by the realization of the existence of other perspectives. They become better equipped to love themselves and the people around them by learning to decenter the narrative of the dominant power structure. That's the power of deconstruction. It gives you your voice. All right, baby. As the movie comes to a close and everyone finds their happy ending, Sasha asks, "What's Barbie's ending?" The Mattel CEO suggests her ending is that she loves Ken, but she's like, "Nah, I actually don't."
I'm not in love with Ken.
Before all this happened, she was so self-assured, but she doesn't really know who she is anymore. And then God shows up. Okay, it's not exactly God, it's Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie, but it's also kinda God.
Come, walk with me.
They walk together into a formless, bright void with soft pastels morphing and washing over them. After deconstructing everything and using that knowledge to empower those around her, Barbie doesn't know what she's supposed to do now. She's like, maybe I'm not even Barbie anymore. This gives Ruth pause, realizing the severity of the implication. Ruth warns that ideas live forever, but humans only have one ending. And being a human can be really uncomfortable. But Barbie says, I want to be a part of the people who make meaning, not the thing that's made. I want to do the imagining. I don't want to be the idea. Through the process of growing and learning and questioning, she's begun to transcend the box she used to live in. But it's also all she's ever known. What do you do when you've outgrown your old clothes? What happens when you feel more yourself than you've ever been? But it's not the same you that you thought you were. This is the scene that made me want to make this video. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that reckons with the question, after everything, who are you? Barbie asks Ruth for permission to become human, but Ruth's like, you don't need my permission. Barbie says, but you're my creator. Don't you control me? Didn't exactly expect this movie to deal with the theology of predestination and choice, but fuck it, here we are. Ruth's like, no, I can't control you. And Barbie says, so being human's not something I have to ask for or even want? It's just something I discover I am? This scene makes me cry because it's about learning to be. It's about becoming yourself and learning to be okay with that. How unbelievably special to become yourself. It's painful, disorienting, confusing, but it's also free. You are already yours. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to ask anyone else for permission. You don't even have to want it. You just are. Isn't it a wonder to just be? Ruth grabs Barbie by the hands and she says, "Now, feel." And the world slips away. As soon as What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish began playing in the theater, I was just waterworks. We're presented with a montage of real-life women and girls living. Jumping into a pool, running around, giving a kiss on the cheek, growing old, being young, graduating, raising hands into the sky. It somehow manages to condense existence into a blurry montage of memories. And the first thing we see is Barbie's eye, partially transparent against a tree. Like the tree Barbie saw on her first day in the real world. It all fades away and Barbie just says, yes. Becoming yourself is not a single moment. It's not your 18th birthday. It's not your graduation. It's not the day you get married. It's a process. I'm not there yet, and I probably won't ever be. I've deconstructed my faith, my morality, my sexuality, my race, my mental health, the political systems we live in, and plenty more. And there's still other stuff I'm in the middle of deconstructing, and other stuff I'm not even aware I'm going to deconstruct one day. If I can implore you to do one thing, keep reassessing how you see the world. It's okay to come to firm conclusions, and it's okay to believe things. But just stay open to having your mind changed if something else comes along. At the very end of the movie, Gloria, Sasha, and the dad, who's credited as El Esposo de Gloria, which is amazing.
Estoy muy orgulloso de ti.
Give Barbie a ride to what we assume is going to be a job interview. They tell her how proud they are of her.
Orgulloso.
Orgulloso.
They're her community. They're the people who saw her through all of her crises and loved her all the same. They love the person she is, not just the person she used to be. Barbie gets out of the car, flat-footed and wearing Birkenstocks. She walks up to the front desk and introduces herself as Barbara Handler. She changed her name. The receptionist asks, "And what are you here for today, Barbara?" And she says,
"I'm here to see my gynecologist."
I love this ending because it's not only a major milestone for her as a woman, but it's her investing in her health and self-knowledge. You can see how excited she is to be making this choice for herself. Her smile isn't perfect by design anymore. It's coming from within. If you're watching this, you might be in the middle of some stuff. You might have just started deconstructing, or maybe you just have some questions. What I want to say to you is, don't panic. It's gonna feel overwhelming at times, but if you can, try and remember what you're fighting for. You're fighting for yourself. I asked some friends online, what would you say to someone who's currently deconstructing? Here's what they wanted to share with you.
My best advice is to start by accepting that there's no one correct way to experience these views, and just because something is common doesn't mean it should be the standard, and just because something is a norm does not mean that you need to conform to it.
Do a bunch of stuff just to try it. Even if it's not your thing, it's good because it reminds you that you have agency.
Don't assume the end point of deconstruction will be reconstruction.
When you're dealing with deconstructing beliefs, I would say sometimes you need a scalpel and other times you need dynamite. Like, take things slow if you need to. It's a long process, be patient with yourself, but also there are some beliefs that you just gotta blow shit up.
At the end of the day, deconstruction does mean to destroy something, and you will be grieving parts of yourself that you might not even realize that you will be.
The purpose of deconstruction is to leave yourself with the composite parts necessary for reconstructing something better and purposeful, always remaining in a state of deconstruction without ever deciding what matters to you and what you're going to do about it is nihilism. It's much easier to take something apart than it is to use the pieces to make something more than what they once were. The ultimate goal of deconstruction is the facilitation of new growth.
After deconstructing, one of the most difficult but liberating milestones is being able to view religion with fresh eyes again after healing. Being able to appreciate the nuance and history and diversity that exists even alongside, in spite of, or even thanks to these institutions, be they religious, governmental, or social, is difficult because we often idealize them as monolithic due to our own limited experiences. I've found that coexistence and progress past just defending your own existence and right to exist means having to cede some mental rigidity and being open to always learning more.
Old isn't inherently bad, and new isn't inherently good. Unfortunately, it's just not that simple. But be a hopeful skeptic and hold that tension.
The first thing I would tell that person is, welcome to a very cool universe of intellectually honest reasoning, and we're so happy to have you.
Spend some real time with yourself, getting to know yourself and why you're undertaking this process. Deconstruction is a very taxing experience, so you really do need to be patient with yourself and give yourself the time and space that you need to really appreciate what's being asked of you for this experience.
My advice to someone in the process of deconstruction is to give your past self and your friends and family grace, because everyone is doing their best. Just focus on how you treat people and how you live your life moving forward.
People will feel uncomfortable and threatened by the changes you're going through. If possible, don't hold it against them. We're all clinging to something.
Be super patient and gentle with yourself, above all. Deconstructing is a painful process akin with grief, so it's going to take a lot of time to feel like you're even starting to heal. I've found that it is important to learn to forgive yourself for the things you did or believed that you no longer align with, and accept that deconstructing is kind of a long-term thing by nature. Remember that you did the best you could with the tools and knowledge that were available to you at the time. There's no shame in leaving old versions of yourself behind.
You are not the source of your shame. It's been taught and put on you, so be as kind as you can to yourself while you heal from it.
Before you begin, look in the mirror and tell yourself you are God's beloved child.
Accept that you're not going to be the same person when you started, and it'll be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but if you have a strong support system, you can make it through, and good luck.
Thank you for watching. Oh my gosh, this is a long one, so thanks for making it all the way to the end. This one started off as I should just hop on camera real quick and give a few thoughts on a movie I loved. And then it turned into a thesis. I would really love to hear your story too. If you want to leave a comment telling me something about your deconstruction story or something that resonated with you or things that other people should hear, I would love to read it. Oh, and if you could throw a seedling emoji in your comment, I'll know you made it to the end of the video. I don't know, are the comments gonna be weird on this one? Let's find out. If you enjoyed this one, liking and subscribing helps me out. And if you wanna help me do this as a job more full-time, you can head over to my Patreon, where you can get some cool perks like your name in the credits, downloads of my music, and exclusive bonus content. This month's bonus video is me talking more about the Barbie movie. Let's talk about some things that didn't really fit into the thesis of the essay I was writing. Hari Nef, she had some of the best line reads in this movie. But anyways, this is Nikki. I don't know if you can see her. This is my friend. It says Nikki, Ultimate Fashionista. This is for ages 3 and up. We're just gonna do a Nikki unboxing here real quick. Also, I'm not sure when, but I'm going to release an album of music that's all about the topic of religious deconstruction. It's all written, I just need to produce it. And right now I'm making video essays, so it's been hard to juggle both, but keep an eye out for that. I'll be posting about it here. I'll be posting it on my social media as well. This one is a little heavy, so if you need a breather, I also have some other videos on lighter topics like Mamma Mia 2, and a song about a frog. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.
Come over and collapse a little bit closer. Collapse that way. Go, yeah.
Lucas, get up! Follow her! Okay! Go left! Go left! Go left! Oh, this is good! Now go get him! And Lukey, come over to